Good.
Hello, everybody. How are you doing? How are the things so far? So you enjoy
Good,
your
ma'am.
day? So you're enjoying your day, right?
Ma'am,
Yes.
it is night here.
Oh, you're night. Okay. So that's better then. You almost finished with everything, right? So what we gonna do if what time you have in night? What time you have there?
9:40 p.m.
9:40 p.m. is just the morning. It's AM, right? No PM. It's just morning, right? You know, you live in
No,
big
ma'am. 10
city.
a.m. 10 p.m. is sleeping.
Sleeping, really? You don't you live in the big city in
It's
the
PM, not AM.
PM.
it's PM in Prime Minister, right? No? Okay, so whatever. Anyways, what we need to do, we have to do it, right? So this is what we agreed upon. No other choice for now. Maybe later you would have better choices and opportunities, better schedules, uh, better teachers, correct? No? Okay, so this is our plan, what we are working on. Uh, so we are entered already. July 26th, right? 22nd. July 22nd. So July 22nd means we're going to configure operating system its features to perform in a specific task on company network. So company network, in order to perform some, so you have installed, this is something we started last week. We configured some roles. You remember what roles you have configured? Someone remember what roles you have configured? Yes.
Server core.
Server core is not a role. It's not a role. Server core is a version of operating system, which basically means that you can have the another view of operating system, just another view of operating system. Server core is not a role, but it is in just another way to look at the operating server operating system. Is that correct? Right? So a server core is something what then just another type, but we can what you have learned that you can transition from one view to another view anytime, right? From one view like graphical view into having a graphical interface or having a core, you can just transition from by following a few steps. Yes, anybody else remember what roles we have assigned? Uh, Print services, okay. Yes. Uh, Print
Web
servers.
servers.
What else?
Web servers.
Yes, a web server, very good. IIS server roles you have assigned. And did you remove any role? I think there was one more role someone is, most of you are not
Graphical
remembering
interface.
it. There was one more.
Print print services, ma'am.
Graphical
Print
interface, ma'am.
services, I think one of your friend mentioned. Anything else what we configured?
When we removed the graphical interface.
Okay, very good. We remove the graphical interface. Those are the things we work on. Hmm. Okay, so this is something just a different view of, as I said, that's a different view of your operating system, right? It's not something like something new. It's just a new, just it's just not a role. Removing an graphical user interface is not role. Yes, this is one of the tasks we perform, and we use the PowerShell tool, and we use the server manager to perform that task. Anything else you remember? Yes, what else you
Editing
remember?
the registry,
Hmm?
editing the
Sorry? Yes, what other what else we have learned last week? What other roles we have assigned or removed? That's it?
DNS.
There we go. Akash, yes. We assigned DNS role, and that's important, right? Because without it, you cannot uh, performs other operation on server because it requires DNS to be installed or set up. DNS role you install, and IIS role or web server you install, and also you work with some server registry configuration, right? So you have learned what is the registry and how you can edit. Yes.
Ma'am, during the last class, you told us that we will finish the registry part in the next lecture, but in the lab 2 assignment, you gave the instructions to perform that.
No, we performed it, right? You just include that is screenshot what we performed. I didn't ask you anything else. Just the last step we performed because many peoples were just talking about the not many peoples, two or three peoples have want to discuss their grades, and they took almost 45 minutes insisting that whatever they did that was right. Anyways, I don't like the arguing. Try to understand the input and feedback when I'm returning it. If you have question on the feedback, that's another thing. We can address it at the end, but don't try to occupy the whole class time. Because if you occupy a whole class time for one person question and not happy with the grades, you know, uh, it will kill our time, it will waste it means you're not respecting other people's time. Try to understand that other people's are also here and their time valuable. uh, yes, registry, you just submit the one last step I showed you, because I don't want to carry it for the next week because I have to cover some other contents, otherwise I will be uh, missing some contents, or you will be missing some contents. Um, that was the last step, and I realized that it is better you submit it. That's why I posted in the instruction sheet under the lab document. Please do pay attention when I'm providing some instruction under the lab document. Uh, that's going to help you. If something not clear under the instruction sheet, well, you can post it on discussion forum. And discussion forum is open for all of us, right? I'm not only the person who is the main source on the discussion forum. You all are the main source on the discussion forum. You can post answer, you can reply answer, you can put your feedback, but in respectable way so other people's accept and follow along. If I found someone is giving wrong answer, then I will intervene and make the correction. Make sense? Hopefully. Let's get to this one. Yes, yeah, I ask you if you have missed that part. Well, just a little step. That was, I think, I demonstrated. If you need more help on it, that's another thing. Yes. So our midterm is scheduled. Midterm is scheduled July 29th. Correct? July 29th. So July 29 means it's gonna be okay. I'll double check. I'll double check it. Yes. Any other question? All set. Shall we continue? Yes. Okay. So our midterm is according to our tentative plan. 29th of July. 29th of July means if I look down to the it's just in this small, that's a fast track kind of courses college offers. 4.5, I think 1.5 month, not too much time we have, um so 29th of July means it's going to be this week, right? So next week, would it be fine for everyone? Yes. Yeah, it's gonna be MCQ. You want some descriptive or definition kind of things? Uh,
No, no,
uh,
ma'am.
y- so next week, I'll also reveal the assignment one, hopefully. Uh, Links I posted on D2L. I think I had placed some references there. If let me show you. 1 second. If you go to D2L under the content, there is a link for each and every topic we're talking about. I'm not sure if you guys are checking it because you were asking a question which I already posted on D2L. So if you go to module 3, 1 second. One second, let me double check if 1 second. Yes, did you find the link there? Hmm? Did you find the link?
In my D12, ma'am, module 3 is not showing.
Module 3 not showing up?
Yes,
Uh,
ma'am.
okay. It shows here. 1 second. If I change my role, well, I can see as a student. Why not you?
Okay, ma'am, I got it now.
Okay. So this is my view as a student. Module 3. So you may refer this one. It's not a textbook, but it's a good reference. So you may refer comments and the things we are discussing. So you would find pretty much good stuff there as a reference. Okay, the individual questions and request to do some favor kind of. So I'll check it back at the end of the class. Okay. So what we're going to discuss today, how to configure, because in order to access the resources on the network, you need to configure IPv4 address, right? So how to configure pretty much same steps you follow on your any Windows operating systems, and the method is same. Nothing something complicated and some brand new. If have you ever configured TCP/IP on your machine, on your Windows machine? Uh, Hello,
No, ma'am.
No,
really,
ma'am.
really. So This is so simple. If you go to your Windows machine, right, and you go to network connection, and under the network connection, when you go to Ethernet connection and change adapter option, well, I have a couple of more adapters because I'm using this machine for different application. So if you go to Ethernet property, then you would see there under the property window, you would see this is the Ethernet. For Ethernet is the network adapter card. So we can configure it here under the property. So this is what, check it out, what configuration you have it here on your Windows machine, your host machine, not on a server. Can you all check, please? What
Yes,
configuration?
ma'am.
So what configuration you have? Do you have selected the first radio button or second radio? Most probably you all have first radio button selected. So this is what the ISP people recommended for home application. Yes, the first radio button or second radio button. So go ahead and check it. The way I told you, you can go from here as well. If you go from your network connection and open network and setting, so it also take you to your adapter card setting, Ethernet adapter, and then you go to the change adapter setting. That will be the same. So you can either go from there, a few more methods to reach to this window. That's not the only one you can. Yes. Did you check it out? Let me know what
Yes,
configuration.
ma'am. It's on automatic.
So this is okay. Can you please? So does anyone has an use following IP address?
Ma'am, actually, I have assigned some IP address.
Okay, that's might be your personal choice, but not recommended by ISP provider for home internet access. Correct? So
That's right.
my point is what this setting mean to you, right? So Windows has same configuration, pretty much same method, whether you work with a client application or if you're working latest like Windows 7 to 8 and 10, and even in older legacy Windows operating systems, pretty much same method, or to the point where we are discussing server application. So the method is pretty much same. So you have two options given there. One is either to use the automatic configuration, and another is manual configuration. So automatic is pretty straightforward for home applications, but in a network application, it has a meaning. So when we choose the automatic configuration, it means uh, there is someone else who's taking control of it, right? So that is DHCP server. DHCP server, that's another type of roles you can assign to your server operating system. So when you select this one in your home computer or Windows 10 computer, so you would say that this is basically provided by the ISP service. So ISP service provider basically taking a control, and they have their DHCP server responsible to assign you NIS to assign your computer an IP address for lease. Lease means to get an IP address for temporary use for certain time period. So it can be on a day by day basis, or daily basis or for some specific time period? Well, it all depends upon their DHCP server setting. So we will be focusing first in this discussion today, use following IP address, right? So what this use following IP address means, because we are setting up a small network and installing our server operating system. We have done it already. So now we are making it, we are preparing it for the network applications, right? So for that purpose, we prefer to use following IP address option, because here the network admin has more control on it, right? So you can manipulate the IP address, assign IP address, and you know how many IP addresses you have to work with. So we're going to discuss first IPv4 address, and then if I have time, I would give you some description of IPv6, which is the latest one. Well, we are using both in industrial application, in production, in IT production. We are using both configuration. Even IPv6 is been there for quite a while, but we keeping both IPv4 version 4 and version 6. So now the question is, what is this IP stands for, and what is the addressing? Addressing means, what do you think? What it would be? This term.
IP stands for Internet Protocol.
Internet protocol. Okay. So what is the importance of this IP?
Every device has IP address.
See? So you know everything, right? Correct? So every device on network, whether it's a laptop, desktop, server, printer, phone, etc., right? So now we are living in an era of IoT, Internet of Things, right? That's not a part of this course, but now Internet of Things says everything which is can be connected and can be assigned to an IP address, can be controlled remotely through the internet. This is another topic. Anyways, so I'm just giving you an importance of IP addresses. IP address, just like in you receive a parcel by mail, right? At your home address. So it has your name on it, and for instance, your address, right? So why did you receive it? Because someone sent it to you. It may be parcel, your mail, or some document, whatever you were expecting to receive, for instance. I'm just giving you a simple example. Don't take them personally, please. So those address means, well, this is an important piece of information for you, right? Or important parcel for you to be received. So it cannot be delivered to you. Why it cannot be delivered to you? Just if it has your name. Can it be delivered to you if just it has your name? No.
No, ma'am.
Because name is common, many peoples may have a similar name, right? So, but it does not mean that it is for you until and unless your name and your address, those are matched, right? And then it delivered to you exactly. And you say, hey, this is what. And at the other side, if you flip over that parcel, or like we are living in a pandemic era where we're doing a lot of mailing online and purchasing online or something like that, and the people's go to the Amazon, they do the purchase, and then they get their order delivered to home doorsteps. This is the trend we had it here for last 4 or 5 months. So then, if you flip it over, so you would see the address of whom? Address of sender. who sent this one, this parcel to you, right? So that will be the another address, and that is the address of destination, right? So it's need to be destined to your home address or the address which you prefer to. So similar thing happens on network. Network has important packet to be delivered. We call it packet. Packet is basically a data, piece of data. Can be anything, right? Could be anything, any document, email, something like that, right? So it need to be delivered from one place to another place or another computer, right? So how would it be delivered to another computer? So it should know, this packet should know the information, who is sending, in whom it need to be delivered, the address of source, in address of destination. What kind of address it would be? That would be the IP address of source in IP address of destination. Correct? Right? So this is how that packet will be delivered from source to destination. Now the question is, well, we're not that is what this is how we share the resources, if we have assigned the proper IP addresses to our nodes. Now the question is what this address exactly looks like. So do you know how longer that address would be? Well, the home address also has some limitations. Well, this is 2-line or 3-line or 4-line address, it could be, right? So IP address also has some constraints. So it could be it is a 32-bit address if we are addressing in V4 format, version 4. So 32-bit address. Bits we talk about quite in detail, so I'm not going to repeat that part. So basically it has 4 8-bit decimal values between 0 and 255. You know why? The format of the address in decimal, it's in a format of can you see my screen, right? Hopefully. It appears in shared screen message. So IP address could be like this. Correct? Are you familiar something like this kind of IP addresses? No?
No, ma'am.
But ma'am,
Yes? Have an idea about what does it mean?
yes, ma'am.
Yeah, go ahead. What do you know?
Ma'am, a host is the main server that that assigns IP to the other devices that are connected on the network.
Okay, so yeah, but I'm saying what this IP address mean? This format, what information it carries? What does it mean exactly? Okay, so you know what? Like you have an house number, maybe Bangalore number, whatever, I don't know. House number, location number, right? And then street number, right? And maybe the province and some postal code, something like that. So those are the different sections of your home address, correct? Right? So some different sections of your address. So IP address also have sections. How? IP address 32-bit. Where are the 32 bits first? Try to understand this information. I'm giving you very interesting information, very useful, and you will enjoy it in your real practical environment, knowing this kind of things. So here, where is the 32-bit information? This is one octet we call second octet, and third octet and fourth octet. So each octet, actually, this address is 0 to, each octet has an 8-bit length. 8-bit length. 8-bit length. Okay. Forget about for a moment for network and host kind of thing. So each octet has an 8-bit length. Are you guys following along? Hopefully.
Ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So it has an 8-bit length. 8-bit length means, well, 8-bit you have studied, I think, in some other course. In 8-bit means you how it could be from all zeros to goes on and on and on 2 raised to the power 8 and up to all ones. Those many combination you could have, right? Is that correct? Do you remember those things? Right?
Yes,
So 250, 255. This is what we call, if you take the binary equivalent, decimal equivalent of this binary 1111118 ones, you can use your Windows calculator if you like. So that is equals to 255. Correct? So starting from 0 to 255. So this is an octet which is separated by a dot, right? And have an IP address range from each octet has a range from 0 to 255. 0 to 255. Why? Because it has a range of 8-bit numbers. Correct? So with this concept, so what would be the maximum for this octet? 255. Let me change the color so you shouldn't be confused. So what is the maximum for this octet? 255. What is the maximum for this octet? Octet means a decimal separated value of 8-bit. So 255, 255, and 255, right? So 8 multiplied by 4, so 4 octets, right? 4 octets means 4 32-bit, right? So here,
Ah,
okay. So here, so 32-bit value of zeros and one, and now the question is, if this is the IP address of your machine, you're going to assign, for instance, right, to one of your machine, for instance. So how you would interpret it? So what this is the IP address. Most often we have an IP address, something like that, 192.168.1.0.3 or dot something. So this is how we read it out. So we don't call it decimal. It's not a decimal. It's pronounced as dot. Decimal means different, some fractional value. That's when we say decimal, it means it's something fractional. It's not fractional value. It's a dot separated value, right? So actually the IP address comes up with some few more little bit more information. When we write down, enter this address here in our Windows, which we will do it on our server machine. Well, for instance, you enter this number here, 192, whatever. I'll tell you what address you're going to enter. 192 dot is already there. 192.168.32.5, for instance, right? So now it will ask you what is the subnet mask, right? So this is the IP address, just like what is the street address, right? What is the postal code? So what you're going to say, the subnet mask means it's in another piece of dot separated information, which basically mask this IP address in a way that you can differentiate, or network can differentiate, or operating system can differentiate that which portion of this IP address is a network ID and which portion is the host ID. Are you getting this point? Say yes or no.
Ma'am.
Got it?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so this one, when we place all ones, for instance, for 3 octet places, right? If we place all ones means 255, 255.255, which is equivalent to say 1111, 1111 dot 1111, 1111, and then dot 111 in 8 more ones, and then this is 8 zeros in binary, correct? So the point is, if we place this kind of mask up to the 3 octets equals to 255, 255.255, and it basically covers this information or masks this information through some logical operation. I'm not going to that detail, so it's not necessary to know at this point. So it will basically tells the operating system or NAT server, this portion up to the 3 octets, you treat it as a network ID, and another is an host ID. Just like in your home address might have an street address, right? And street address which is common for everyone. Like in your own in your whole neighborhood, the street address for whole neighborhood is common. Am I right? Right? So street address is something common information. But what is different is your house number. House number is different, right? So it is unique for you. So similarly, you can think as a network ID, which network it is part of, which street it is part of. You can think like that. So you would say, okay, this is the ID for the network, which it belongs to actually, in which host number. Well, how many host means how many you install Windows 7, for instance, right? So this was we call it an host machine. Well, in physical setup, right? So you have another server, in, for instance, server 2 or server 2. This is also host machine for main server, host machine. So any server which is basically accessible through the main server, which you're going to assign the main role by assigning a domain controller later on. So that will be the host to that computer, right? That is network. So how many hosts you can have? Well, you can have as many as this space is available, right? What do you think? How many hosts you would be having can be accommodated here? No idea. Well, I just have mentioned it. a few minutes before. Hello?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, did you get my question? Okay, Arjot, that's good. Yes, so you send it to all. When you're sending some information, piece of which is not personal, it's related to course, right? So you can share it to the rest of the classes. I come to this point. Anyways, so this one is host, and this one host ID, how many hosts we can have. Well, this space is an 8-bit, not more than 8-bit, right? And I just have told you the maximum limit for 8-bit is 250 to 255, right? So minimum can be 0 and maximum can be 255. So that's why we can have 253 hosts. In that case, we minus 2. I'll tell you later if I have some extra time. So this can accommodate 253 hosts, right? 253 hosts, number of hosts I'm telling you. Like another host could be having an address 192.168.43, or you can say 101 and 102 or 103 and so on up to 253. You can go on. Correct? Makes sense? Hopefully. Okay, so now if you would be looking at the address space of IPv4 class full addressing under this 8-bit address space octet. So first octet in first octet, in second octet, in third octet, in fourth octet. This is the IP address. So we basically have, so Windows server says or network administrator says there are classes of IP addresses. And this is also termed as class full addressing. Class full means, it tells you or your network admin will decide how many hosts I can accommodate with that IP address. So for instance, in my previous slide, I said we can accommodate 250 hosts, right? With this IP address configuration, correct? So the reason is why 253, why not more, right? So, or why not less? So why 253? The reason I had given you that this space is 8-bit, right? Maximum. So it can go up to 8-bit means 1, 2, 3, 4. 3, 4. This is the maximum limit for 8-bit, which is exactly 255, and we minus 2 from there to get the number of hosts. Okay. So the question is that there are some classes of those IP addresses. We call them in a class A, class B, and class C IP address. Well, what is the purpose of this class? Classification basically helps you to identify which portion of this IP address is network ID or network identifier, in which portion is, like I said, those 3 octets are reserved. 3 octets are 3 octets for network ID, right? And 1 octet for out of 4 octets, 1 octet for host IP. Well, why 3? Why not 2? Why not 1? So you may have that kind of confusion. So that here is an answer in resolution for your confusion. So if we have a class A kind of IP address assignment, then the network identifier would be of 8-bit, correct? And then if we have reserved first octet for network ID or identifier, then rest of 3 octets would be available for host address space. This 4 octet address space basically classified into network ID space and host identifier. Now, the point is, how would you know how many octets are reserved for identifying network and how many for host identification? So that's all depends which class they initially, but there are some other techniques. Initially, that was all depends which class they belongs to. If they belongs to that IP address belonging to class A, then first octet for network and 3 octets for 3 octets means 3 multiplied by 8, 24. So 24 bits for host address and 1 octet means 8 bits for network ID. Are you following along?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Yes,
So first, so the things are clear, easy, right? So if I be placed using an IP address for my network assignment, a kind of this class B, how would I say it is class B? Because I had reserved 2 octets, first 2 octets, right? From left side. So first 2 octets for a network ID and the rest of the 2 octets for my host ID. Well, if I reserve 3 octets for network ID and 1 octet for host ID, then this address will belong into the class C. Now the question is, well, how would we say that 3 octets are reserved or 2 octets are reserved for network and 1 octet is reserved for network? What do you think? How would we say that? How do we make this kind of reservation, 1, 2, or 3 octets? Yes. Let me see if you guys are following along or you're busy doing something else.
No, ma'am. We are following.
Okay.
We are following.
Thank you. So did you get my question? How can we reserve two octet or 3 octet or 1 octet for network ID? What do you think? No idea? Let's go back here. Well, if you didn't get it, I cannot move forward then. That's my problem. This is subnet mask will help us out, right? This is the subnet mask who tells the system that those many octets are reserved for network ID or those many for host. How? Where we want to reserve the network octets, so we put them all 111, right? Where would we like to make it available for host? We put their zeros. Agreed? Agreed or not?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes.
Right? So if I put all ones there in my subnet marks, it means I reserve this octet for my network ID. Then on another octet, I did the same thing, put all ones there. Then it means I reserve this second octet for my network ID. If I reserve second octet for my network ID, then it is class B address, right? If I reserve only 1 octet for my network ID by using a subnet marks of 255, then subnet marks would be, I better write down. I think I have it here. No. Okay. So then the subnet mask, it would be the subnet mask, which helps you or system to identify the subnet marks in that case. 255.0.0.0, correct? Only one octet. Only one octet for network ID. Well, if the subnet mask, I change it to 255.255.0.0, then it means I am going to reserve 2 octets for my network identifier. How about for class C? What would be the subnet mask for class C? What do you think?
3 octal.
Okay,
3 times 255.
give me the value. Tell me the values. What should I write down?
255.255.255.
Really? Anybody
Then
else? Yes, anybody else? Yes. Well, tell me in words. I want to listen, not in written. I want to listen. How do you say that?
3 times 255 and 1 times 0.
Okay, Jitin Preet. Who said this one? Who?
I'm Bhavesh.
Bhavesh. Okay, Bhavesh. Let me polish your answer. We don't say 3 times 255 and 1 times 0. We say 255.255.255.0. This is the correct way to pronounce it. Do you understand? Right? So this is what you said, 3 times 255 and 1 times 0. This is not a technical way to pronounce the subnet mask, or so when we say the class B subnet mask, then it is 255.255.0.0. If it is a class A, then yes, someone can pronounce it for class A. Yes, Komal, you're correct.
255.0.
Yeah, go ahead. For class A.
255.0.0.0.
Okay. So what the Komal said, other people agreed with her or
Yes,
not?
ma'am.
No, you don't have to. If she did not bribe you, right? Not really. She's right. So
Yes.
this is 255.0.0.0. This is how we pronounce. You got it now, right? Awesome. So with this concept, IP addresses range. How do you put the IP address? You're going to pick an IP address for your virtual machine server, right? But you need to know I'll give you the number, right? You will simply enter it. My job will be finished, your job will be finished as well. But you will be limited to only that number without any concept. What if you're going to work with another number in production environment? You would have no idea, because I had given you a number in which you just have entered in your IP address and you have no idea what it is, then it's going to be useful to get the grade, maybe for the law part, but not going to be useful in near future, right? So the question is, you see here the class A has the first bit value starting from 0 and first byte value from 10 to 127. And the number of network would be number of network identifier would be 8. So number of host identifier bit will be 24. In possible network would be 126. In possible host would be more than 16 millions. Well, how do I say all those kind of things? Focus on first class A. How do I say those things? Because I said the mask is 255.0.0.0. That is for class A mask, right? Subnet mask. Then the first byte, how far we go with this first byte? We go from 0 to, starting from minimum value up to 127. For class A, we don't go up to 255 for the first byte. That's a restriction. For class B, we'll start from 128 and then 191. And for class C, we will start from first byte from 192 to 223. This is how we go up to 254 range. Are you following along? So the number of network bits, network identifier here, 8 bits. In host identifiers, as I said, 3 multiplied by 8, 24 bits. In number of possible network, how many networks I can have? What do you think? How many networks I can have? One network, two network, network ID, like one network ID, two network ID. How many IDs I can have for the network?
126.
Why? Well, answer is here, but why? Because the first value can be from 0 to 127, right? So this cannot go for more. If we go further after 127, then it will not be any more of the class A address, right? So 120, you're right. The number of possible network would be 126 because we can go up to 127, including 0, right? So number of possible hosts, how come I have those many? That's bigger number. Someone can help us. Number of possible hosts for class A, 16 million more than. Why? And how come we have this number? What do you think?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes. Any idea? No idea, really. Well, you are the smart guys, right? Yes, you work with number system, you know. Well, I am the one who taught it, so I know that you work with that number system. Anyways, I'm not just I'm just back referring the course content. So if you don't remember, that's another thing. So as I said here, three octets are reserved, right, for host. It means 3 multiplied by 8, 24 bits are reserved for host, correct? For class A. So if 24 bits are reserved for host, then how many possible combination in binary it would be? Like all starting from, you know, one, two, three, four, five, six, seven, eight, all the way up to 24 times 1, right? So it would be 2 raised to the power, then, now you can tell me. 2 raised to the power, how many combination? Yes, think about it. You may scratch your head twice.
Currently doing that, ma'am.
Huh?
Currently doing that, scratching her heads.
Friendly doing? I didn't get it. Sorry. What did you say?
Just scratching our heads, as you said.
Oh, you mean see you're scratching, still scratching your head? Don't scratch too hard. Okay. So A is 2 raised to the power 23. Simple. Because it's 2 raised to the power 24. Because 24 bits are there reserved. 24 bits are reserved, right? So if you do this little math, you're going to get this number. Correct?
Yes, ma'am.
See how simple the things are? So sometimes we need to just retrieve the right information at the right time. So here for class B, then the same thing, like similar concept for this class B. So what the number we can have for the first byte or first octet from 128 to 191. So when you say the address is starting from 192.168 or .x, .y, whatever. So when you start a number from 192, it means it falls under this category, right? So class C category, because they said the address space for the class C start from 192. The address space for class B starts from 128. And the number of networks would be varying from the number of network bits would be varying from 8 bits, 16, and 24. And host identifiers will also be varying based on our network mask, So this network mask would be here 255.255.0.0. And here the network mask would be 255.255 dots 255 dots, correct? And this one would be 255.0.0.0. This is the subnet marks, which help us to find out the number of possible network. So number of possible network here, 16 bits are reserved, right? 16 bits are reserved. Then we would have 2 raised to the power 16 network, which is this one. So as we have reserved three octet or 24 bits, so we would have something like this, 2 raised to the power 24, pretty much close number what we have it for the number of possible hosts, and the IP ending with or a number of hosts would be 254. Question if you have on this slide. We can move on to the next. Okay, so with this concept, so we can work with some categories of IP address, classful addressing, which now phased out. This classful addressing is not in production environment, but it is the basis of the other classes configuration we have working in our production environment, including like VLSM and CEDAR or classless interdomain routing. Classless interdomain routing is the subnetting method that enables an administrator to place a division between the network bit and the host bit anywhere in the address, not just between the octets. So we would say that, well, we're not just reserving up to 255.0.0.0 or 255.255.0.0 or 255.255.255 dot zero, we can have something from here in this class, or we can have some adjustment from here in this class. And we can manipulate those bits to have some other mask. Not necessarily the mask will always be on this kind. This is what we call CEDAR or classless. There is no class in that case, right? Those are the classful addresses, have a specific boundary, a name, class name, right? But when we work with the CEDAR, then there is no specific class for subnets. So CEDAR notation sometimes written like 192.168.43.0. So this is another kind of another alternate method of writing, like IP address in subnet mask. What does it means? This is basically, hello?
Yes,
Let me
ma'am.
Okay, so you guys following along, right?
Yes.
Yes,
Yes,
ma'am.
ma'am.
Okay.
Yes,
No,
ma'am.
no question being asked. I'm just surprised. So things are crystal clear or not clear at all? Two possibilities, right?
Yes, ma'am, it's clear. That's why we don't ask.
Okay, makes sense. Hmm? I didn't get it. Sorry. Anyways, I'm hoping it's clear. I'm explaining very straightforward and simple tone, simple language, no complication. Here, well, this is an alternate way just to describe the network admin can use this method to describe in terms of like reference, not in configuration window, not here, but not in the configuration window, but it is for your reference as a technician or for as an admin. How do you refer the IP address? Okay. Let me do this one. Oops. How to go there? This one? Okay. So this has a specific meaning. So please try to focus on it. So here /26 means the 26 bits of the address are used as a network identifier. So if I would say 255, like I said here, right? 255.255.0.0, then I said 16 bits were reserved as a network, or 24 bits were reserved as a network identifier. 16 here, 24 on class C, and 8 in our class A type. Okay? Here, if I'm writing, is there any other combination we can have other than 8, 16, 24? 8, 16, 24? Yes, we can. This is what we call CEDAR configuration. It says 26 bits of bits reserved for the network identifier. 26 means 192.168.43, right? This 43. So if you take the binary equivalent for this number, so it's going to be appears like this. This one, all ones, and then 2 more ones from here. So altogether, up to here, 24 bits, and then 24 plus 2, 26 bits, right? So then I can have a subnet mask of, rather than having 255.255.255.0 for class C, 24 bits, I would have a 26-bit mask with 2 more extra bits taken or borrowed from host, then the mask value would be changed from 0 in the last octet to 192. Make sense? Hopefully. So this would allow to us to divide the addresses into 4 networks, with each of 264, 62 hosts. So 62, now the number of hosts are reduced from 253 to 62 hosts because more bits were taken for network ID space. So I can have 4 subnets. Why 4? Because I have reserved those 2 bits, which can go 0, 1, 1, 0, and 1, 1 combination. So 0, 1, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4 subnet. This is what we call subnet because network is huge, right? One network can be like in 255 computers. That's huge number of computers to manage for the network admin. So network admin can split those range further down depending upon its organization environment. Like if an organization has requires 20 users or computers to work on in particular area, then we can split it further down this last octet. So and then we further divide the one big network, which was this one in our previous example, with this one, right? One big network into a small subnets, right? So subnetwork, abbreviated as subnets. Anyway, so here you can see the starting IP address in network, ending IP address, and for /26 Cedar expression. So what would be the starting IP address and ending IP address? There's a little binary maths. I would encourage you try to do it. If you have any further question, then I can address it later. So public and private IPv4 addresses basically is some of the addresses reserved for private use. What is the private IP address? Like an IP address which starts from 192.168.0.0. That is the private IP address, right? /16. /16 means 16 bits are for your network ID. This is the network ID. So /12 means 12 bits, 8 plus 4 bits from here, right? 4 means 16, 2 raised to the power 4. So that's going to give you 16 combination, right? So 16, that is basically another IP, private IP address range, right? So it falls in /12 category or class. It's not a category. So it's Cedar expression, way of defining IP address. Or another private range you may assign in this course in any IP address range out of this private IP address range, right? So you can pick this one or this one or this one, right? What I would suggest you, we're going to assign an IP address to our machine, server machine from this, or we can have /24 as well, right? So that is the reserved space, 3 block of addresses. Subnetting, that's a huge topic. I think we have separate course which address more in detail. Subnetting with respect to the Windows operating system. I'm just touching you giving you a thought about how it would be used. You know. So subnetting basically classification of further classification of networks, right? So like 10.0.0, 16 bits reserved for /16 if I'm using. So subnetting basically allows you to split one IP address range into multiple networks, and you can take the 10.0.0.0/8 private IP address to the range in the range and use the entire second octet as in subnet ID, right? So you can use this range, or you can use 10.0. We can put some number here like this. 10.1.0/16 or 10.2.0/16. So this range can be bigger as long as you're following up to the range of 255 numbers. Question if you have?
No, ma'am.
All right, so now the question, how do you calculate your IP address? Well, how many subnets identifier bits you need, and how do you do, that's questions you need to ask, right? So how many subnets you can have in your network? So we will subtract the, yes. Okay. Get saturated? It's difficult to digest, right? Is it? Okay, have a break. But how long?
10 minutes.
10 minutes?
10-minute break, madam.
Okay. Have a break, short break, and come back. What time it is? It's around 1:30. So we are about to, I think, oh my God. I think we are about to finish the class time. 1:30 is right now. So if you come back after 10 minutes, so then 20 minutes would be left. Can I go for further 10 minutes? Then I will go for attendance and then we will be finishing this class. Would it be okay rather than you go for break and come back? Then we don't have then time left. Because that doesn't make any sense. I told you, you better ask me earlier. Sorry, I forgot to give you the break earlier. You know, so this is a method, and supernetting is another technique which is used in our network IP address calculation, which basically is another way to manipulate the host bit. And it's all about how do you assign the number of bits for host and number of bits reserved for network ID, right? So that can be a variable, can be adjustable, all depends upon your organization needs. So how big your organization network is, then you can assign the number of bits according to your requirement. Let me go quickly to this part. Oops, wrong slide. So assigning IP address would be a task which can be managed in two ways. One is one second. So it's a little tricky to assign IP address. Not difficult, but this in this course I'll give you the assistance how to assign the IP address. But you need to have an idea how do you do that in your production environment. When you need to when you're setting up your systems for network sharing, you know. Okay. Well, there's, as I said, there are two methods, right? So one is the manual, which we're going to adapt for one server and one client machine. Another is the automatic or a dynamic host protocol, a DHCP, through the DHCP server. And third one is automatic private IP address or a PPA. So there are three ways to assign IP addresses, basic methods. So when you choose the manual an IP address, so you enter an IP address and then subnet mask and then default gateway and the DNS server information. DNS server, like you have assigned this role to one of your machine already. So what is the IP address of that DNS server? So you need to provide it to the other machines so they can communicate with each other. And you can use a GUI or inline utility to do this assignment. It's not a difficult, but it's a little bit time consuming for the longer or bigger networks. Right now, you just have 2-3 machines, 2 servers, and 1 host computer to assign the IP address. But if you're working in a big organization as an IT technicians, there are 200 computers and 50 computers need to be assigned IP address. Then it's going to be time consuming. So difficult to troubleshoot if information is entered incorrectly. So if you enter a wrong IP address, wrong subnet mask, then it will be difficult to figure it out. What's wrong on the network? Why you cannot communicate with your server? Or why the users cannot access the server. So DHCP is a dynamic host configuration protocol, just like you have used a DNS, not exactly alike, but it performs some dedicated task. What it is, DHCP basically is a server, another server. Well, we have one server already. We can assign multiple roles to that server, but we don't like to overwhelm it to do, hey, you are the only one which is gonna do everything for us, you know. So that's gonna be overwhelmed in real production environment. So we basically have separate dedicated server, one for DNS, one for DHCP. Well, if we are out of server, then we can assign one server multiple roles, as we did it in our yesterday lab activity. So DHCP servers on the network contains a pool of the addresses and other IPv4 configurations and client request a configuration at the boot up time. And DHCP server respond to the request by assigning an IP address. So just like, DHCP, you can think this as an IP pool. It has an IP pool, right? IP pool means there's so many IP addresses are available. So many IP addresses are available. Well, there is a range, we define it, right? There's not an infinite number. We define it on the DHCP server, how many there could be. And then whenever a client log into the network, like you and me, or my host computer, it pick an IP address from its pool and assign it to the host computer, right? So this is the role played by the DHCP server. And IPv4 configuration, we call them, are released for a period of time and renewed as necessary. Just like you get some things library from library, you get something on rent or you get something on lease. And if release time is about to over, then either you return the resource or you say, hey, I need another renewal. So no IP addresses are duplicated. Remember, on network, we cannot have two resources having the same IP addresses. So this is our configuration window. We're gonna work in our lab 3 how to configure this window. I think what time it is. Yes, I have 10 more minutes to go. One second. So this window can be, you will learn it in our tomorrow session, hopefully. I'll walk you through how to configure this window for a resource sharing on the network on our Windows Server operating system. One more configuration I want to tell you. So if you select this one, right, then DHCP server is there to assign an IP address from its IP address pool. It's basically leased IP. So this machine is going to get an IP address on lease, right? On lease, not at least, but on lease, right? On lease. But if you select the second option, which we're going to do, then you have to manually enter.
Ma'am, screen is not here.
Sorry.
Your screen is not here.
Okay. Maybe it's disconnected. It's okay now. So when we select this, this is what I said. I think I explained it earlier. When we select this option, which you had, most of you, including myself, had it for my Windows operating system. My host machine, Windows 10, has this option enabled because this is my requirement of my ISP, right? Otherwise, I'm going to get the IP address confliction with the ISP server. So this one basically, DHCP is responsible to lease or to assign, better to say at this point, DHCP will assign IP address from its pool for on lease, right? On lease means not forever ever, right? This is yours IP address forever ever until and unless your Windows is alive on the network. Not really like that. So it assigned this IP address on lease. And once the lease is over, you may request a renewal or have another IP address. The second method is this, where you manually enter an IP address starting from 192.168. Remember, that's a private IP address for Class C range. And then you provide in subnet mask there, and then you provide, this is a gray area right now. But once you select these options, then this going to be options is going to be enabled. Okay. Just let me finish this slide, then we will conclude this session for today. The third method is a PIPA method. If I go to this tab on my Windows configuration, where I have alternate DNS or alternate configuration. Well, if it is not getting an IP address manually, not working, have some problem getting renewal of IP address from DHCP, what else the node would do that? Nothing, cannot be accessible, out of access, no one can access that server or no user can log into the server. Well, that's not be the case. Then we have some backup plan, right? What it is in automatic private IP address, a PIPA. A DHCP failover mechanism used by all current Microsoft Windows operating system. And a PIPA basically, if a DHCP, a system fails to locate the DHCP server on the network, then a PIPA takes over, automatically assigns an address on the network, on the nodes, starting from 169.254.0.0/16 network to the computer. Remember this address range. I'll ask you in the test. So this is important. You know why? The alternate configuration, if you go there. And if an IP address starts from 192, 169.168, no, it's not dot 168, it is dot 254. If you see the 254 here in the second octet, it means it's not getting an IP address from those two methods, right? So it is getting an alternate IP address, which is a failover scheme, right? Provided by Windows operating system. Any kind of Windows operating system, whether it is in client type, Windows 10, 7, 8, or server type, right? So for a small network that consists of only a single LAN, a PIPA is a simple and effective alternate to install a DHCP server. So you can use this technique, a replacement for DHCP server configuration. Question if you have?
No, ma'am.
Okay. So hopefully things are clear. If you don't have question, all we can do, we can have party then, right? Really? Not now. Maybe later. Let me get to the iLearn attendance tab. Did I give you a quiz for this course? Well, a little bit confusion because
No, ma'am.
this is the same group I'm working with in two different courses. I'm trying to segregate the two groups, and I'm treating this.
Yeah. No, that's fine.
Yes. You can expect a quiz this week then on Saturday. Okay? Would it be fine?
No, ma'am.
No? Really?
No, ma'am.
Let me check my tentative plan. Well, this plan is not available on D2L because I'm just waiting from my office to confirm it to be posted on D2L. If I go to, can you accept my? Okay, if Jot, You were traveled, right? So how was your journey?
It was
Enjoyed?
good, ma'am.
So you like Canada? If you're gonna say yes, then I'm gonna accept your late submission.
Yes, ma'am.
You like it?
Yes.
Okay. You saying by heart or by force?
No, ma'am, by heart.
Not by force, right? Okay. So how do you like this course? By force
Yes, this course is amazing.
is amazing. Really? Okay. Then you can all the time submit a late submission, right? Not really. Okay. As you travel, then you send me an email. Well, I have no evidence, anyways, other than you said that I was traveling. Is this possible for you to share your some evidence like itinerary, what you call e-ticket or something like that? So just for the cross reference, well, I can believe that you travel,
Yes, ma'am.
but as we are not in a physical interaction or physical setup, so the only way is a digital communication.
Yes.
So if you don't mind sharing it your as you're asking for, because lab 1 is pretty old, right? So I'm not sure
Yeah.
when you traveled, because then I would see lab 1 or lab 2 or both or one of them.
I
Can
can
you
show
get?
you my boarding pass.
No, I don't need the boarding pass. Just to give me like, because students like they're traveling, right? And no, you are not the only one. It's happening like since last semester, and some people students selected exactly the exam date to travel. It's not their choice. They said this is what they got it. Anyways, no argument. So in that case, you're supposed to provide me some evidence other than you said that on the top of it. I need to see your e-ticket or itinerary or something like that, so I can see
Okay.
allow you to make a submission. Make
Okay,
sense?
so can I attach the copy to mail and send you?
You just send me the e-ticket or something like that, which has the dates when you left from your
Okay.
back home, and
Okay.
then I'll open a Dropbox for you. Then I'll respond by looking at that. Okay, the
Okay, ma'am.
email.
Okay.
Is that okay for you? I
Yes.
hope it's gonna work for you.
Yes.
Akashdeep is there.
Yes, ma'am.
Amandeep Kaur. Amanveer Singh.
Present, ma'am.
Arjun. Arshdeep. Absent. Gurinder Singh.
Present, ma'am.
But this is someone else that the Joban Preet is saying Gurinder Singh is present.
Present, ma'am. Gurinder Singh.
Arjun is also present.
Oh, who else is present?
Arjun, ma'am.
Arjun is there. Okay.
Yes.
Gurinder Singh present, ma'am.
Okay, great. Gurleen Kaur.
Present, ma'am.
Okay, some people want to get in the class at that attendance time. What do you think? Shall I allow them? Huh?
Yes, ma'am.
We just need that. They just need the attendance, nothing else. Okay, let them make happy. No worries. Gurmanjot Singh.
Present, ma'am.
Harmeet Singh. Jaspal Singh. Jatanpreet Kaur.
Present, ma'am.
Jatanpreet Kaur.
Jatanpreet Kaur present, ma'am. Excuse me, ma'am.
Yes.
Harmeet Singh present, ma'am.
Present.
Okay.
Ma'am, Harmeet Singh present.
Okay,
Ma'am,
one
for
second.
the
Who do
After
I
the-
miss? Okay, one second. If you missed me or I missed you, just wait for a few minutes. Let me complete this flow. Jobanpreet Singh,
Yes, ma'am.
Jobanpreet Singh, number 2.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Karanveer Singh,
Present, ma'am.
Kulvinder Singh.
Present, ma'am.
Okay. Lovepreet Kaur,
Present, ma'am.
Lovepreet Singh,
Present, ma'am.
Manisha,
Present, ma'am.
Manjot,
Present, ma'am.
Manjot number 2.
Present, ma'am.
Mahdi,
Present, ma'am.
Muskan,
Present, ma'am.
Neha,
Present, ma'am.
Alminder,
Ma'am.
Alminder, Prinkle Jot Singh,
Present, ma'am.
Parminder Kaur,
Present, ma'am.
Rajvinder Singh,
Present, ma'am.
Rabanpreet Kaur,
Present, ma'am.
Simarjeet Singh,
Present, ma'am.
Sukhmanpreet Kaur, Sukhpreet,
Present, ma'am. Sukhmanpreet present.
okay. Sukhpreet Kaur,
Present, ma'am.
Stop that song, please.
Sumanpreet Kaur,
Present, ma'am.
Vanshika,
Present, ma'am.
Bhavesh,
Present, ma'am.
Manvir, Sarvapari,
Present, ma'am.
Ivjot,
Present, ma'am.
Kapil,
Present, ma'am.
Divjot,
Present, ma'am.
Komalpreet,
Present, ma'am.
Navjot,
Present, ma'am.
Navjot number 2,
Present, ma'am.
Navneet, Tushar,
Present, ma'am.
Mohit, Sahil,
Mohit, present, ma'am.
Sahil,
Present, ma'am.
Ranveer,
Present, ma'am.
Tanu,
Present, ma'am.
Shehbaz,
Present, ma'am.
Shruti,
Present, ma'am.
Monisha,
Present, ma'am.
Monisha, Monisha is there?
Yes, ma'am. Her network just her connection got lost. She was present in the meeting.
Shahina,
Present, ma'am.
Harjot,
Present, ma'am. Jyoti is present, ma'am.
Okay. Karan Beer,
Present, ma'am.
Kamar Paul,
Yes, ma'am.
Vikrant,
Present, ma'am.
Anish,
Present, ma'am. Anish, present, ma'am.
Okay, got you. So let me check if I missed anyone. Some people texted in the chat box. Harshdeep is present. Okay.
Ma'am, Harmeet Singh present.
Yeah, I'm just checking it out from your text message. Harshdeep Singh is present. Okay, I just have saved all the changes I had made. So if you guys have any concern, you can check it at your side first. All right. So I'm going to close my attendance register. All done? Okay, hopefully this session is useful for everyone. Thanks for joining me
Thank
today.
you, ma'am. Thank you
Take
very
care.
much.
Excuse me, ma'am.
Take care.
Ma'am,
Take
I
care of
sent you
yourself.
email. My
Okay.
air ticket.
Okay, I'm going
Okay,
to
ma'am.
about fly.
Okay,
Thank
ma'am.
you.
Thank you.
Oh, okay, thank you.
Thank you for joining me.
Have a
See you.
great day ahead, madam.
Okay, see you next time. Take care.
Definitely, madam.